All right. Everybody, welcome to our meeting today. We'll get it started. And do we have everybody connected so I can go around to have everybody introduce themselves?
We should.
Okay. Yes. All right. So welcome everyone to our meeting, and we'll start with everyone that's on the council doing introductions. And
Judge David Dillard, representing counties under 10,000.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Trevas I work with Republic Services, and I represent a solid waste management organization comprised of commercial operations.
Good morning, Scott Pasternak, representing the general public and also with Burns and McDonald.
Good morning, Steve Shannon. I represent a public recycling organization.
I'm Risa Weinberger with Risa Weinberger and Associates, and I represent the composting industry and environmental educators.
Dave Yankee, I represent the financial community. I'm with New Gen Strategies and Solutions.
Jeff Mayfield, North Texas Municipal Water District. I represent public solid waste districts or authorities.
Good morning. I'm Chuck Rivette with Waste Management. I represent a solid waste professional with experience managing or operating the commercial solid waste landfill.
Charlie Fritz, Deputy Director of the Waste Permits Division in TCEQ.
Megan Henson, Manager at Municipal Solid Waste Permit Section at TCEQ.
Ana Eras, Technical Specialist, Municipal Solid. And I will go, I'll call roll for anybody who is online. First, let's start with Mr. Abramowitz.
Richard Abramowitz, representing the general public.
Cheryl Murgo.
Cheryl Murgo, representing the planning region from the Houston-Galveston Area Council.
Judge Dillard. Oh, right here. Sorry. Judge Hayden.
Yeah.
Of Gutierrez. Brock Lively.
Brock Lively with the City of Plainview. I represent a municipality or county solid waste agency.
And Robin Nelanis.
I'm on Goliad City Council. I represent cities under 25,000.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for everyone being here, and we'll just jump right into it.
Dave, Frank Pugsley is here as well, representing a professional engineer in private practice with experience in permitting and design of municipal solid waste facilities.
Sorry about that. That's why I didn't get Judge Dillard.
No problem.
All right. Well, with that, we'll just jump into the Waste Permits Division update, and Charlie, we'll let you do that.
Yes. So not a lot of new updates. Most of y'all probably know, if not, the legislative session's ramping up. It starts officially in January, but bill filing starts on November 11th. We're training staff. We actually have a bunch of new staff this year, as you'll see in a second on some separation turnover slides. We have a bunch of new staff helping with our legislative analysis. So we're training them up. We're giving them practice bills. We're letting them look at bills that have been filed in the past. So we're learning how to analyze bills. Basically, as a kind of what the agency does is we screen through all the bills that are filed every day and find ones that impact the program. And so all the programs in the agency do this. So I'll have a similar process of we go find all the landfill bills, all the recycling, do keyword searches. And then we have a process, we have a form that we go through and analyze the impacts to the agency, looking at changes to rules, changes to number of applications. But we go through that and then work with our IGR department of submitting that officially as part of just submitting the impacts. We call it a bill impact summary, a BIS. So that's kind of what we're training staff for. That's our legislative process, at least the first half before hearings start up. But that's kind of how we analyze the bills. We're looking at the impacts to the program. We're always happy, Megan, Danielle, and I are always happy to talk bill ideas, bill concepts, can give thoughts on how a potential bill could impact the agency. We can't, we start to get kind of limited. We can't lobby on a bill, so we can't say yes or no, but we can talk to you about what an impact could be, kind of just talking concepts and ideas. If we start getting into, we can sometimes look at bill language, but if we start getting into actual bill language, draft bills, I ask that you send it to our IGR, our intergovernmental relations staff, and have them work with us on looking at actual draft language of bills. We start to get a little, again, we can't write language either, but we can point you in directions of, here's some language we've seen before. We can tell you about previous bills, or we can point you to statutes that are there currently. So always, if you have any questions about the legislative session and how MSW permits handles that, happy to talk.
Any ideas as to potential, it's probably too early to speculate, but any ideas as to hot topics?
It's hard to say. I think everything's been bounced around a couple times. So yeah, most of that comes from y'all and through me. You come talk to me, so I haven't had many conversations yet.
Maybe that's good.
Yeah. Looking at, so HB 3060, we had we presented, TCQ was called for an interim hearing on HB 3060, which is the plastics pyrolysis bill, or advanced recycling. So it expanded past pyrolysis. So we presented at a hearing, legislative hearing in September, no questions. We have worked on the rulemaking. It's past proposal. It's actually very close to adoption. Adoption of HB 3060 will be in October, the end of this month, and then effective in November. And then any questions, I can go into our legislative appropriation request.
The 36B, the advanced recycling, refresh my memory, that it basically exempts pyrolysis from permitting.
Right.
For plastics?
Yes. Yeah. So
Just plastic.
yeah, plastics, it's pretty much plastics. There's the feed, if you go look at the definition of feedstocks or recoverable feedstocks, recoverable material, that narrowly defines it. It doesn't, I think it actually says plastics, but it's looking for the plastic material. And it's exempt. So it's the advanced recycling, which is pyrolysis, gasification. I did a whole study on this. Now I'm blanking. Pyrolysis, and one more. But the advanced recycling techniques, the waste, the plastics going to those techniques are exempted from the definition of solid waste. And the facilities doing those activities are specifically called out saying they do not need a solid waste authorization. So any other TCQ authorization, air and water may still apply depending on the specific activity, but it was specifically called out that these do not need solid waste authorization because it is a processing activity, but exempted.
Is this the bill that also required you to designate a mass balance?
Yes.
Work on that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So good point. I didn't put all my notes down here, but yes. So we've also put into rule, we expanded chapter 328 to include more information about recycling. We have we maintain a list of third-party certifications that have the mass balance attribution certification. We didn't specifically pick one out. We didn't specifically put one in rule because rulemaking is a long process. So instead, we said that we'll maintain a list, and we're working through the internal process of how we're going to update that list. But we kind of went through and found certifications that were certified by third parties and more industry groups, collaborations that certified these mass balance attribution systems. So we didn't pick one out because we didn't think we had the expertise, but we do have a list. We're maintaining a list of third-party systems that are a certification system.
And that is on the TCEQ website? Is there a...
That that's the part we're still figuring out on how we're going to let people know. I think we'll end up at a website, but right now, if you contact us, me, Danielle, David Greer, he'll talk a little bit, we can get you that list. But we're still working out the specific details of where that list is going to go.
Okay, thanks.
And then on the legislative appropriation request, so the agency submitted all the budget documents we have to do leading up to the legislative session. In our budget request, we had 6 exceptional funding requests. So basically we said, here's our budget from the previous biennium. Here's 6 additional requests that we want to increase our budget. So we had 27 million for 115 FTEs. These are for various programs that are increasing in capacity. So waste permits is not actually getting any of those FTEs. It's UIC, air, OCE. So, and then it's also, and so there's 27 million for 115 new FTEs. 40 million, 39.5 million for targeted salary increases, looking at engineers, natural resource specialists, attorneys. So kind of those high turnovers, continuing to target the positions that have high turnover. And then the rest are 4 million for administrative support, 17 million for cybersecurity and modernization, 24 million for data center services, and 1.7 million for restore salaries. So it's about 57 million per year of just the additional increase. And I'll say that kind of the cybersecurity, the data center, a lot of that is just infiltration increases, not infiltration, inflation increases, just due to if the service is the same, it's just the price has gone up everywhere. So just catching up those amounts. But that's so 57 million, about 57 million per year by M is the exceptional item request the agency is asking for. With that, now you can put up the slides. As part of the salary part, just wanted to show you all kind of what the agency has gone through with the with salary. So here is, and yeah, that blue that blue looked good on a small screen. The blue line this is agency wide. So this is, agency has about 2,800 FTEs. This is agency separations per month from FY 2017. So that was September 2016 until now. So this is a rolling average. The blue line is the rolling average. And as you can see that kind of agency-wide, 20 to 30 people separating from the agency per month from about 2017 until COVID, everybody hunkered down. And then you start to see that you heard our conversations in 2021, 2022, a lot of people were leaving the agency. So that's 2023 was our first targeted salary increase where we really focused on increasing everybody's salaries. So now we're going to ask for that again. And as you can see, we believe that it's helped. The 2023 increase that we got has appeared to have helped calm down people separating from the agency. So and I'll show you another slide of just WPD data. Go back one more. The orange line is the FY24 average for the year of separating. So it was 25, I believe. So we spent most of FY24 below that. Kind of August always has an increase in people leaving. So much lower people leaving the agency. Next slide.
Is that all separation? So retirement, involuntary, and voluntary non-retirement?
Yeah, so that's all separations. Does not count internal transfers.
Okay.
But people just separating from the agency.
Yeah. Okay.
And then here's WPD data. of separations by fiscal year. So just the number of people that have left the agency out of WPD each year. So this one, again, does not include people that transferred to another division. It was just easier to track this way. So
I'm going to be stupid. What's WPD?
waste permits, sorry.
Never mind. Thank you. I should have known that. Sorry.
Waste permits. So yeah, this took too much time to try to get down into MSW data. So this is waste permits. So it includes MSW permits, IHW permits, our support section. But again, 2017, 2018, about 6 to 7 people leaving per year. That feels like the right number. And then we had our 2 bad years of 2021 and 2022 where 28 people left in 2 years. That's WPD has 79 people, FTEs. So 28 people is a third. I didn't do the math.
Yeah.
Third. Yeah. So those 2 years were a lot of people left. And then it's calmed back down. We got the salary increase. It's improved. I think we've done an excellent job. And 2024 shows that. We've only had 2 people leave last year. And we're doing good. It's only 2 months into the fiscal year, but it's going good. So that's kind of showing that was the targeted salary increase in FY23. And that's, again, why we're continuing that. We still see turnover in the attorneys and the engineers and some other areas, too, that continue to target those salaries and see what we can do to increase them.
Do you track that at all by, by age? Because I would suspect, your younger folks make up a higher percentage of those bar charts. So I don't know if that's something you track as well.
I don't track. HR may have that information. I haven't seen it at all.
Yeah.
Years of service. That's another one.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any questions? Okay.
All right.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Glad to see the turnover going down.
Yeah.
That's great. Hopefully it'll keep going down. Next item, MSW permit section update. Megan, I'll let you take it.
Try roll one more time. If you're online, Judge Hayden. Ralph Gutierrez.
All right, so just to follow what Charlie was speaking of, for vacancies in MSW permits, we have 2 vacancies right now. One engineer that we've been trying to fill for at least a year, I think, at this point, and one environmental permit specialist. So that one, we're conducting interviews now and hope to hire someone in the next couple weeks, get them started. For major applications under review, we have 21 permits and 6 registrations, so pretty much in line with what we see meeting to meeting, quarter to quarter. I do want to mention, I mentioned this, I think, the last meeting, just a reminder that the notice of intent to not just recycle, but any notice of intents, they now are required to report their operating status annually. So for MSW, this is your NOI your recyclers, your citizens collection stations, low volume transfer stations, and composters that are operating under an NOI. So those categories currently don't have to report to TCEQ, or I should say previously, and now they have to report their operating status online. So as part of this, we're working on guidance, and we'll have a webinar as well. We'll start announcing the webinar probably next month through our newsletter, and we'll put the guidance online. And it's really just a step-by-step of a screenshot, what buttons to click. It's something that if you have an NOI, if you have multiple NOIs, it really takes minutes. Probably the hardest part is registering for steers. And once you're through that, it's a very easy process to go in and update your status. This also is applicable to certain scrap tire entities. This is the land reclamation projects using tires, as well as the scrap tire generators. They also have to report their status. And the scrap tire program has already scheduled 3 webinars. So the first one's October 29th, and then November 12th and December 3rd. So any scrap tire generators or land reclamation projects using tires, they need to be sure to attend those. And there's announcements coming out for those webinars.
So a municipally owned recycle drop station, those are exempt, correct?
If there's not an NO, if there's not a number, an authorization number, and they are exempt, then right, they don't need to report their status. Yeah. So it's if you have that NOI number, that's when you would have to report. So exempt facilities do not have new reporting requirements. Any questions about those requirements? And you have to report by December 31st. I'm gonna let that important date out. Okay. So the 2023 MSW annual report summary is now published. So this is a great report that we put out every year. Our staff do such a great job. All the facilities do a great job submitting their data. As similar to last year, we included an executive summary and then some of the call outs where there's little graphics so you can see what we thought. You know, the feedback we received is this is the data that people want to identify quickly. So be sure to check this out. It's also available online. A couple of highlights I wanted to cover is we had 201 active landfills in 2023 with over 40 million tons of waste disposed. So we're still seeing that steady increase in the disposal. And our per capita disposal for the state was 7.20 pounds per person per day. So I think if you look closely, the population also went up. So the disposal rate went down, but the per capita disposal went down. But I think our population, along with our annual disposal, increased. So it kind of balanced out for the per capita. Also, something we don't always mention, but is in all of our reports. I even checked to see if the 2013 report had it. It was 10 years ago, and it does. Is there's data on here for the landfill gas recovery facilities. So these are those facilities that collect gas and sometimes and process the gas for on-site use, or they can sell the gas off-site, or they collect the landfill gas and convert it to power. So we have 29 landfill gas recovery facilities in Texas. And in 2023, there were 60 billion cubic feet of gas processed and 177 million kilowatt hours of power generated. So quite a bit. It's just an interesting thing that's kind of, we talk so much about waste disposal. We don't always talk about some of the good stuff that comes out of it. So there's more information in the annual report if you want to dig into that. And a heads up for folks that we're working on translating this report into Spanish, and it'll be available online. We won't have printed copies, but we're looking to have that translation done probably about spring 2025. And then from that point forward, we'll translate this report into Spanish every year. And it should be a little bit quicker. Since it's the first time, there's a lot that our translator has to work through. Any questions on the report?
I've got a comment. You show in this report that there are 21, I believe, composters at the registration and permit tiers in the state. Okay, just recently I had a reason to go through the MSW facility database and count up all of the composters and mulch facilities that I could identify. And at some level, when you get down to the NOI for recycling, it gets a little, you almost have to look at the name and see if it sounds like it's a mulcher, or a metal recycler, or something. Nevertheless, I came up with almost 200, including the NOI tier. So when the NOI facilities start reporting annually that they're still operating, I hope that's going to roll through into this kind of data, and I hope there will be a way to identify what type of NOI that is, particularly when you kind of get down in the weeds in the NOI for recycling, and some of them are mulchers and composters, and some of them are something else, I hope there will be a way to identify those facilities, because there's such a discrepancy between the 21 that are reflected here and the something like 200 that I could, you know, count up in the database, it would be nice if that was reflected also, given the fact that those facilities that are not registration or permit tier process a tremendous amount of material. It's really consequential.
Yeah, so the main reason those aren't included is because they don't have to report.
I know.
So while they may be reporting their status,
That's
they
what I'm
don't have to
saying.
report data.
In the future, you know, when they have to report their status, at least the number maybe
Number of facilities.
will show up.
Might be able to do that.
That would be a little bit more realistic.
Sure. Yeah, we still would have the data gap. I think we just have to make it clear that.
Let's start somewhere.
Yeah, and I just do want to compliment you, though. These reports just, again, have a lot of really good information. I know it takes a lot of work to get it put together. I know when we get it every year, we give it to our consultants and say, go through this, because we'll use it as, you know, data points, you know, with other clients and what have you, what's going on around the state. So it's good information.
Thank you.
I'd like to say if any members online want a paper copy, I can mail you one. If you would email MSWRRAC to with your address you want me to send it to, and I can send it to you there.
Well, just like every other year, we publish the report and we're already asking for everyone to submit their reports. So please get your reports. If you have a permit or registration level, submit your reports by November 10th. It's really important to get these in on time. It helps us meet our publishing goals, and also so we can have conversations if we're seeing questions about the data or discrepancies. So if you don't report by November 10th, you get to get a lot of fun emails and phone calls from Anna and some other staff at MSW. So I guess if you want calls and emails, but please get it on time, and that way you just get nothing but praise from us. So just a reminder to get those in. I also wanted to mention our newsletter. Just a reminder, we have a quarterly newsletter. It's called News from Municipal Solid Waste Permits. I think we had a newsletter go out Monday. Does that sound okay? So we pull things that are going on around the agency, around the section, including announcements like these meetings. But we also want to give updates on things like webinars or program changes that we want to get information out quickly. So you'll see announcements like when we started posting applications online, that was in our newsletter. And the latest newsletter also covered groundwater reporting requirements and information on submitting applications and reports electronically or hard copy. We have guidance for so many things, so we pick kind of different guidance to focus on and put it in that newsletter. So be sure to sign up. You can sign up online. If you go to the MSW homepage, you'll see a contact us, and then you'll see a sign up for the MSW newsletter. So just a reminder to sign up so you can get the latest info on time. Typically, we send one per quarter, and then we'll do if we have special announcements, we'll send those out as well. Lastly, I want to talk about trade fair. This is in May of 2025. And June. Thank you. May have used last year's notes. June 2025, and we're soliciting input from stakeholders on topics. Just like last year, y'all provided some good insight of things you want to hear about from MSW or from maybe not MSW staff. You want to hear from some of the industry experts. So we try to have a mix of administrative and technical topics with a range from beginner MSW topics to more intermediate. We've covered things like common notice of deficiencies. We've also, like last year, we went into landfill gas exceedances and the different process for that and different examples and case studies. We've also had some experts, industry experts, present on composting. So there's a lot of topics that we like to cover. So let us know who you want to hear from, if it's TCQ, what topics, if you have local governments that you think would be interested, industry experts that would be good presenters, and let us know. And you can send your interest or ideas to our MSWPER@TCQ website or email. Go ahead.
All right. Any questions?
I just had a comment. Received an email yesterday from, I think it was from the TCQ, but it was a general email about the multi-sector stormwater permit for industrial facilities. It's got that renewal, and I think it expires in August of 2026. And so it was a general email just saying that there's going to be a stakeholder meeting next month for anyone that was interested to seek preliminary comments, and solid waste facilities fall under that.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Megan, thank you. Up next, we're going to have an update from Business and Program Services section.
Waste permits. Just a couple of things. We're starting a new fiscal year. We're starting a new set of meetings, and just let you know that some of you will have, I believe, terms that expire next year. And so we're going to start that process again here earlier, January sometime. We also, I believe, have we continue to have those two vacancies. Local government, we're continuing to look at ways that promote the committee, the council. And so this month we did not get an application, so representative person. But we are going to be working through the process, hopefully putting out the word out through social media with a lot of other partners. But that again is coming up, and we will be looking to get all the documentation that we need to, the forms out, and we'll let y'all know at the next meeting when we're going to be ready to again send a notice out to the Texas Register and get the recruiting going. So heads up on that. SWRRRAC, we're able to get all the contracts signed and the funding out before the end of the fiscal year. And David, I think it was one of the challenges that he had made to us. We got, I think, 4 signed up. It signed in July. We had 1 that lagged into August. Still able to get done. First quarter reports came in September, and all of them are continuing to do their planning and continue to work at ways of implementing the project. Again, there's 5 COGs that are doing the SWRRRAC projects, and it's about $470,000 of federal funding. Megan mentioned the scrap tire generator and bar puts. There are going to be in this open-ended status notification that's going to be coming up. They have to report by the end of December. And so we're trying to get those folks in. They're all generators. So besides your discount tires and your Costco's and your Sands, there are also a lot of tires up in Burnett on Lamar Boulevard up here. Your small mom and pops folks in small little communities. And so some of them have been registered since the program started back in the late 90s, 94, 97. So they don't have to report. Their registrations never expire. And so, again, this is going to be a big challenge for us. We have 3 webinars that are planned to provide them with information on how they're going to be able to register into steers and also provide us with their status. Those are October 29th, November 12th, and December 3rd. We've also got a series of emails that are going out. We're also working with some partners. One of the folks that we are working with are the transporters, the folks that go and pick up the tires and then bring them back and separate them out to the ones that still can be used, resold, those that have to go to processors, and then they're in place. In our annual reports, we get about 200 of those transporters that report. And so we're going to be using them to, when they go out and collect tires, from these small stores, especially to, again, provide them with a QR code that on their phone they can hit and they can get to our website. So looking at different ways of really reaching out to them. Again, these folks, some haven't been reached or talked to since they first registered. So it's a big challenge for us, but we're thinking up of different ways outside the box, as they say, to kind of go out and reach them and get them to come in and register. So that's all. Y'all have any questions?
I appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. David's here to speak on Senate Bill 1290. And I think this came up at our last MSWRRAC meeting that they were interested in hearing on this. So looking forward to it.
So to go grab my cheat sheet. I prepared some slides to share with y'all. Hi, everybody. I'm David Greer. I'm with, what's the name of my division?
External relations.
What she said. I'm with the External Relations Division. I'm a little bit flustered about this, excited about giving this update to y'all. I have prepared some slides and I don't really know how I want to tie them all together. I know there may be some interest in here. Hopefully nobody's here just to see me, because that would suggest you might have extra comments and I'm inviting trouble, but please interrupt me along the way. I'm not tied to the slides and would rather just have a conversation with everybody about what's going on. So just so we're all on the same page, Senate Bill 1290 required the agency, along with some other entities, to conduct a study on the effects of installation, operation, removal, and disposal of solar, wind, energy storage systems, battery, and what impact it might have on the environment watershed. So broken it up sort of into three columns here. The first column, these are the named entities with which have the specific requirement to do the study, TCEQ, in cooperation with A&M AgriLife, A&M Forest Service, A&M Extension, the Department of Agriculture, and river authorities and groundwater conservation districts. So we set out pretty early, reached out to the agencies to identify named individuals responsible for this project and those entities. Had a stakeholder meeting, talked about what our plans were, who had studies already going, who had information, who was looking at studies for the coming year, and decided what we were going to do was do a compendium of research that was out there, invite all open research, compile it all, and just provide it all to the legislature. We had an open stakeholder meeting, reaching out to, and I guess I should point out, none of the named entities were planning on doing research on this topic. So it was a little bit of unawareness of what we were going to end up with looking at. We did had some conversations internally at the agency. Our sort of concern was, what's our end of life look like? We sort of know intuitively, I'm going to jump back to this slide, but we know intuitively that the state is seeing an increase in wind generation and solar generation throughout the state, right? Just recently announced that the state is the #1 producer of solar energy. We've been the top wind producer in the US for a number of years. But what does that look like down the line for us, right? So having those conversations and sort of thinking through what that looks like, the agency found some money to hire the Bureau of Economic Geology to do some research on that for us, and they're going to compile a report. In addition to that, we had, in the open stakeholder call, we had a lot of folks come and offer information that they've done. We've received a number of comments, concerns expressed to us about what might need to be included in this. For every stakeholder, there's a different concern and a different desired outcome at the end of the day. And so there are lots of bits of information being desired in this study. sort of talk through this, we're looking at end of life. So we engaged Bureau of Economic Geology. They're going to compile sort of end of life life cycle analysis along with some other things as part of this study. For the specific component of the BEG's work, we sort of laid out what are our boundaries? What do we want them to look at? We're talking about specifically utility scale projects. So the household solar and wind is not going to be included in this. We're having them focus on what the end of life looks like. And I think that's particularly relevant to this group, representing recycling and waste management end of life. And then the other sort of big components that are being included in there are what's already out there, peer-reviewed research-wise, as well as there is a bit of confusion about what regulatory schemes, that's the wrong word, what regulatory framework is already existing for all three of these entities. And so they're compiling that into the study.
David?
Yeah.
Quick question. This is Richard Bromowitz. Are they only looking at Texas regulations or are they looking broader than that?
So there is an inclusion of federal regulations as it applies in the state, but they're not specifically looking at sort of what Massachusetts might already be doing.
Okay, that was my question. Thanks.
Some of that is out there and does sort of paint some information, particularly as it pertains to runoff. There's actually quite a bit of valuable information that's being and studies that are being conducted by other entities that do look at runoff from solar farms and or reduced runoff from solar farms, and particularly related to regulations that counties and other states have put into place to mitigate sort of some of the concerns that might come up with solar farms. So the methodology that BEG is using, can't read this. I read it over there. All right, we talked about the peer-reviewed literature that they're doing. So they've gone through a whole bunch of information. Dang it. Like I talked about, stakeholders, they've gone out and gathered information from a lot of stakeholders. They've reached out to recyclers in the state, landfill operators. I guess one thing that I should throw out, Senate Bill 1290 came through Senator Chairman Perry's committee in the Senate. And for all of you that know, Senator Perry is from the Sweetwater area. And if you've driven through Sweetwater, you know that there's lots of wind turbine blades. And so that was some of the things that were going through our heads when we were looking at laying out this component. What's going to happen with those blades? How are they going to be processed? And so they reached out to stakeholders associated with end-of-life activities and pulled all that information together. And what's that last box say? Site visits. They conducted site visits to look at sort of the stashes. Included in that was specifically working with ERCOT to identify licenses that have been granted for bringing utility scale resources online and projecting, as part of their life cycle analysis, they're projecting how long these installations might be in place and when end of life might come into play. Did I skip end of life? I did. Okay. So they looking at end of life, projecting what volumes of materials might come into play as we continue to grow the resource generation in the state, and projecting that life cycle timeframe when recycling and waste solutions need to come into place. It's a lot. There's a lot still projected to come online in the next 5 years. And with a 25-year life cycle, lifespan, maybe 30 years from now, we really need to know what we're going to do with materials that are coming online right now. what to expect. Setting some expectations. We are delivering the report to the legislature no later than December 1st. It may come out earlier than that. We will time that with updates to our webpage associated with Senate Bill 1290. The link for that is in the bottom down there. Our plan is still to provide a listing, sort of compendium style listing of research that was provided to us. As long as it's in the public domain, we will continue to provide that on the website and share that information with the legislature in addition to this specific component related to sort of TCEQ's regulatory side of things related to solar and battery storage.
David, if I go on TCQ website, am I going to be able to find that?
Yeah, if you could just click on TCQ's main webpage and search for study on effects of installation or just study. I've been searching it just as study, and the third link or fourth link is this study. So I will say I've had a lot of conversations with stakeholders. There's a lot of concerns expressed, and a lot of the concerns that are expressed do not relate to TCEQ's regulatory authority. And so I anticipate that there will be additional discussions about this in the next legislative session and probably the legislative session as we just continue to move forward and address concerns that people have. One of the big concerns that people have expressed to me is related to water. There's concerns about traffic. There's concerns about road maintenance. There's concerns about even health effects related to the operation of wind turbines. So there's lots of interest in this from various stakeholders. But like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Let me ask a question. I'm going to really be interested to see the report when it's done, because you see this a lot in different trade journals. And so this is an issue outside Texas also. I am kind of curious, though, and maybe I'm missing something. Why is there a concern about roads? I can understand runoff with solar, but why would you're not going to have it's not like it's a landfill with a lot of traffic trucks going to it. I mean, you drive through Sweetwater, I mean, you see a lot of the turbines. I don't see a lot of traffic with the maintenance. I'm not sure what they're concerned about.
So the concerns that have been most prominently expressed to me related to traffic is with solar installations, the volume of materials being brought into the site in order to set those up. It's truckload after truckload after truckload.
Yeah, but it's a one-time, just like when you build a building.
But when you're talking about 9,000 acres of a 9,000 acre solar farm, it takes a long time and a lot of trucks to get that built out. There's a question from the audience.
So I was going to say it's the county roads that don't have the right sort of road grade to accept a weight of that magnitude. So I think that's maybe some of the concerns on the more rural county roads where the capacity, it's not built that way to withstand that sort of weight. So that might be where some of that's coming from.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
And then potentially the tax incentives that may have been given, it's reducing. So some tax incentives.
Gotcha.
If I could elaborate, I've got 2 wind farms, 3 solar farms in my county. And when our county roads are not, basically it's that tractors, pickups traveling on our county roads, but when they bring in thousands of trucks, normally they completely tear down, then we have to build them back up. Now, the farms, solar farms, wind farms that have come in, they have been very generous to give us money to build those roads back up, but they do get torn down.
Okay. No, thank you for that update. I showed my ignorance.
Sugar from Houston.
I've got a question. Will this have any guidance as to disposal, like with what's in the solar panels, if any of that's recyclable, hazardous materials, that kind of question?
So we do, the report is looking at the regulatory structured from the agency's perspective, how one makes a determination, what they can do with those materials after that determination's been made. And it does lay out sort of the various frameworks that recyclers and that might apply to recyclers and waste handlers at end of life.
Okay.
David, this is Rich again. I have a question. I know that there's a growing number of battery storage facilities.
Yep.
Are these included in that study, or is it just the solar farm? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just one other question. I guess I'll probably ask, for not to put Republic and WM on the spot, but or anyone else, but that's got landfills. I'm just kind of curious what you're seeing, or is it too early as far as at your facilities, or just how your firms are involved, if at all, with this waste stream?
Seen as the solar or the turbines and taking the actual turbines into the landfill. Quite difficult to do, takes up a lot of airspace. So the customers that we worked with, we had them start brushing them before they brought them in. So that's really been what we're seeing today.
Okay. And it's made of what, like a polymer or something? So it's not.
It's complex composite.
So it's not really recycled. It's so many. Yeah.
It's a layered composite.
Yeah.
Really,
it's pretty strong too. Trying to compact it.
Right over the top. right over the top of it. It won't even hit it.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay. You got any other stories, Chuck?
Well, us in Texas, we're not handling many because they do take up so much space, and we're not positioned in West Texas where most of the wind farms are.
Mm-hmm.
But in other states like Iowa, we've got whole landfills that are practically dedicated to them, really, and they're trying to evolve different strategies, like Scott said, and everything from cutting them up with carbon steel blades and trying to find ways to stack them so that they're really hard to put into a regular landfill, because then you can't drill gas wells anymore to right.
Yeah.
So you almost have to make a monofill.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Does a lot of it go to like C and D landfills then? I mean, whatever you're taking it in C. Really?
The other thing that's in the solar side, the panels of the solar, they have some potentially hazardous components to them. So how do you handle? We've had requests, can we take those? Rejected those just because of that. I don't know where we're going to put those.
Especially the turbines for the bigger ones, the blades are like 400, 500 feet long.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We laid some out, took almost the whole top of it.
Yeah.
Watching those go down the road is pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that there's a growing number of companies that are using technology to attack the recycling of both the solar panels and the blades. So I read more stories about what's going on in each of those areas. So I don't know that there's anything in Texas right now, but I know that there's other companies in other places that are developing technology to recycle both those items.
Any other questions? Look forward to seeing the report.
Me too.
Okay. We are cruising right through. So we're to the final item. First of all, we want to go through and get approval for the minutes from our last meeting, July 11th. I've read through them. They look good. I don't know if anybody else has and wants to make a motion to accept them.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Got a
I'll second.
motion?
Yeah.
All right, and a second. Who is the second?
It was Frank.
This is Brock.
Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? All right, thank you. I think the most important, well, not the most important, but the next item is planning the meetings for next year, for calendar year 2025. So does someone wanted, these were proposed, I'm trying to remember, did we these are just being presented for the first time, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So if people want to take a couple minutes and check their Outlook calendars.
So January the
9th, they're on the agenda.
Okay.
January 9th, April 10th, July 10th, and October 9th. So it's still the second Thursday of the quarter.
Okay, where I was going was in January is the big USCC international conference in Phoenix, which may not affect anybody but me, but it affects me. And I left my phone with my calendar in my car, so I can't tell you exactly what date, but
Does anybody else have any conflicts? I think it's far enough out, can schedule other things around it, and hopefully.
I don't have the Astro schedule yet, David, so.
It's Masters Week.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, I think we'll move forward with these dates then. If there is a conflict, I think, getting everyone's schedule together gets complicated to get 100% attendance. If we end up where there's just one or two missing, I think that's good. And if not, if there is, for instance, in your case, a conflict, maybe you can Teams in or take a break from the conference.
Lisa, it looks like you're still on the hook with us because it looks like it's end of January.
okay. I knew it was January. I couldn't remember the date.
27th through 30th.
Good job Googling, Scott. All right. So we'll go with those dates. And, if you get a lot of people that have a problem, let us know as soon as possible. Okay. We don't really have any action items or anything. Any other Q&A from the council before we go to public? Okay. Are there any public comments?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to come up?
Sure.
Yeah, you can stand where David and Santos stood.
Great. We're going to leave early. This will be pretty quick. So my name's Tom. This is Jody Parker. We own All American Tire Recycling. We're from Dallas, Texas. We've been in business for 9 years and currently process about 26% of all the tires in Texas. As of 2019, we no longer landfill, and we proudly say we have prevented over 500 million pounds of waste from our landfills. So quite a bit of volume. Go ahead.
So we're here today just to bring light to the need to update some of the guidelines for the scrap tire waste program. The current processes that are in place are just not conducive to large-scale processing and green product production. So some of our concerns are just large volumes. So as he said, we process 26%. So we process 18,000 tires a day. And so the large volume that we process, your current guidelines they're the same for a smaller generator, a transporter, a small processor, and us. And so it really doesn't fit what we do right now. And so we're hoping to just kind of work through, this is the first step in kind of looking at who do we talk to about this so that we can work on making this better. The record keeping is a little bit challenging. There's some opportunities as to what we can do to make things better. For example, like your manifest, it has 4 boxes on it, right? So if I take a tire from a tire shop and I turn it into crumb rubber, which I don't know if you know, we make 3 products. So we take a tire, we put it into our machine, and the single pass is what we would take to the landfill. We now take that single pass, we put it into a second machine, we remove the metal out of it, and we sell that to the steel mill that make rebar. We make fuel chips that go to the cement plants, which they use in lieu of coal, a natural resource. And then the last thing that we started making last year was crumb rubber, which goes into football fields, such as
and asphalt.
And asphalt, such as like the high school fields or Cowboys or wherever. And so I could not tell you which tire goes from that tire shop into my bag of crumb rubber because we grind it up. And so
Just one example.
Just one example. And then the last thing is just production time. So my single pass machine, where I used to be able to process these tires and send to the landfill, would do about 10 tons an hour. And so now we can do about 5 tons an hour. So the sheer volume, it takes a lot longer to make these products. So it's a little bit harder and it takes us a little bit of time to process those. We run 24/7, 7 days a week. And so we shut down after 3:30, Monday through Friday, to process all these tires. And by Sunday, we've got them all taken care of. We don't have any tires anywhere. So our goal here is really to kind of create guidelines that help the businesses do great things rather than kind of handcuffing them. We're here to work with TCEQ and to provide feedback and to be a resource to do great things for our state. Tom is the CEO, I'm the COO.
He does all the work. He
really truly has some great ideas, and he's a great resource as a business owner to really give you those insights of what's happening on the ground. We have a couple things that we do that are pretty neat. I think we do all of our manifests, we electronically scan them, and I save them into a database. So anytime TCEQ comes out to audit, a lot of my tire shops or municipalities will call me and they'll say, "Hey, Jody, can I get my manifest for the entire year?" I can supply them with all those manifests because I keep really good track of them. And we provide them in our invoices and things. So we're a great resource, and I think he's a great opportunity to really shed some light on this and make things better.
Yeah, and being a business owner, I want to run my business, but as we've grown, I just want to make things better and easier. You know, being a small business owner is hard enough as it is, especially when you grow to this type of volume. And so that's why we're here. We're not sure if this is the right forum, but I figured with all these years here, and it's an advisory council, so hopefully we can kind of move this ball in the right direction with you guys' help. So we appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate it. Hearing this, who's our tire representative again?
Jennifer Letts, she actually resigned just in the past month, I believe. So that position is vacant.
You want to be on the council?
I did let Tom know that there's a vacancy.
I'll fill out the application, but I'd want to make a difference, however that works. Normally I would say no, but I don't see a lot of progress with this, and I don't know how all this works in terms of legislation. You know, we've kind of started down that road with a representative, but if I can make a difference other than outside of our own communities, but we've made a huge impact. I mean, we started this 9 years ago with $3,500, and we've half a billion pounds worth of rubber that doesn't go to the landfill. If I can make an impact here where it's easier for businesses as they grow. In the beginning, this was great. TCQ is great. They have the guidelines, and I don't want abandoned tires. So it makes sense. It gets out of hand, and you're not making money and you're paying for the landfill. It's a liability. That's why they're abandoned everywhere. So yeah, absolutely. If I can make a difference and you guys can help us with this process.
Tom, what's the name of your company?
All American Tire.
All American. Where are you located?
We service all the cities in Dallas, Fort Worth.
Where's your facility actually located?
Fort Worth. And you guys are more than welcome to come out. We're one of the very few, I think there's 3 in Texas that do crumb rubber. So we do a lot of football fields, all the Fort Worth ISD, and all of our tires kind of go back into alternative fuels, asphalt. So it's been a long road, and we've done this together. We didn't have big corporations funding money from the ground.
Impressive. From my perspective, I'll just tell you that the TCQ is very open to propose changes, and there's actually a process that you can go through where you need to come and request a change. You need to be kind of specific as to what change you want. right?
Yes.
And then you take it to the commissioners and they decide whether or not to open the rule or not. Have I summed it up?
Yes. Yeah. So there's a way to petition the agency for rulemaking. As Chuck described, it helps to be more specific, but you can be general, but any more specific details, facts, data helps with the proposal. And you submit the request. There's a website on our agency that kind of outlines it, but there's certain details you do have to cover. And then kind of just explain the reason for suggesting the change. You can go as far as to say what should be done, or you can leave it more open-ended and just start the rulemaking process. And I'll say if the rulemaking process starts, that petition goes to the commissioners, and then they decide on if a rulemaking should take place. And so that starts the rulemaking process if it passes.
We're not talking about astronomical changes. It's just, when you go from landfilling to making a product, you have product laying around that's not a liability like it would be as if it was a whole tire just shreds, right? That you have to pay to get rid of. The turf season is seasonal. So we have to store turf up because some jobs take 2 million pounds or whatever the number is, depending on the size of the field. So there's just small little instances where there's stuff like that and then a processing time. So, and this is kind of not just specific to us, but as you get bigger, just stuff that hasn't really been addressed over the years since we've been doing this.
Charlie, is it a potential for them to seek an individual exemption to some of the rules?
I would say if you're having concerns or running into issues, definitely reach out to the Scrap Tire program. Santos is in the back of the room. I'm here. We can help because there's not a lot of exemptions in the Scrap Tire rules, but they are pretty flexible. So we could definitely, if you're running into like how you're reading the rule, we can definitely talk to you about it and see if give examples or say, no, that's definitely an area to be flexible in. So definitely come talk to us. And then we're always, in addition to the rulemaking petition, Scrap Tires is always on our mind of just how to improve the rules. So knowing and how to improve the program in general. So your comments about the manifest of the 4 boxes and understanding, that I totally get it, that you run tires through 3 times. It's going to be hard to tell. You won't be able to tell. So we can definitely take that in consideration and see what we can do and help you out too, explain what flexibilities there are. So we definitely want to keep the facilities doing scrap tire recycling right are the facilities we want to help.
And we want to help you as well. I mean, there's so much to document with this type of volume. And the lady comes in and she says, when she does audit, give me 3 days worth of manifest. And we bring out like 6 boxes. She goes, well, that sort of thing. Yeah. So we have electronic copies and tonnage and all of that stuff. So that's all. We appreciate your time. Any other questions?
Well, seriously, I would really encourage you to join the council. We only meet quarterly. You can see how long this meeting took. You can
do it online.
Yeah, and you can do it, via Teams or Zoom or whatever we're using here. We're only an advisory. We don't have any real authority. So to be candid, but we can make recommendations to the commissioners, and it's up to them. But I think the benefit of being on here, you do have a lot of folks with industry knowledge, institutional knowledge in the waste industry that I think would be beneficial. And then just getting to know the folks with TCEQ, I think would be beneficial for you. So I would really encourage you to do that. And yeah, there is a lot of passion here. Tires, illegal tire dumping and all that's been an issue here for 30 years. And it's been discussed on this council for a long time. It's an issue in the state. So anything we can do to increase that diversion and beneficial reuse We're all for.
Great. We get the calls from farmers that are people that own bacon or retired. They just bought some land, they moved to build a house and they find, 10,000 tires on it.
Yeah.
We get the call. We're retired. Can you come pick these up for free or help us?
Yeah.
So
Can you answer a question for me? Maybe I misunderstood. When you were talking about having material that is a processed material that is now a product that is no longer a liability, are you referring to closure costs and financial assurance requirements, or am I?
yes, just financial responsibility. Just when you think of it in terms of a finished product, right? Like we make an alternative fuel. So we're different in the terms of landfilling. We get paid on the front end and then we have a product on the back.
I'm not trying to discourage you from going the route of trying to revise the regulations and the requirements. I think that makes sense, but there are a few things that you might be able to benefit from that are common practices in the composting industry. That's a similar situation where they produce something that is a waste and it's now a product, on their site. So that's something you might want to look at. I can talk to you briefly after this meeting.
Right, I appreciate it. Anything else we could? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, any other public comments?
Nobody on Teams would like to make a public comment? Raise your hand. Is there anybody on the phone line? Press *6. Raise your hand.
Okay. With that said, our next meeting is tentatively set for January 9th. So block those dates. And I don't have anything else. Any other closing comments from anyone? Okay, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.